I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'ma live it, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'ma live it, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to the agency call. I couldn't be more excited to be able to welcome in our special guest, Shawn Simpson. Shawn, serial entrepreneur, background in sales, real estate, construction, selling meat. I'll leave that for a story for him. And, so much cool things that he's been able to do. And, his reason for joining FFL is it's unique, but it's not that unique. He wants to save money for retirement. He wants to be able to put his family in a position, but he's a hard worker, somebody who has a heart to serve. Shawn's story is amazing. The things that he's been involved in. If you're someone watching this right now who has been in different entrepreneur ventures and you're wondering, like, is Family First Life the right business for me? Like, should I be putting my eggs in this basket? We'll ask somebody who has put his eggs in multiple businesses, why he's here with Family First Life. So I'm excited for this call tonight, Shawn. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Yes, absolutely. So Shawn, obviously I want to dig into how you hit Hall of Fame, which for anybody watching this for the first time, Hall of Fame is helping 400 families with insurance in a year. Shawn had a really cool comeback story on the year. He started 3 months late. We're not going to dig too deep into that right now. I'm going to save that here for towards the end. That'll be our content that you want to stick around for. But Shawn, I'd love to hear, your background, your story, all the things that you've done. You shared a little bit with me before we got on this call, but really, what has led you here to Family First Life, to this moment, the things you've been involved in. And, after that, I'd love to really touch on, why you're doing this.
Yeah, so back in 96 is when I started my sales career. And I didn't know that I was going to start my sales career. I actually went in for a delivery job and come to find out the guy lied to me. And it was door-to-door sales, selling steaks, chicken, and seafood door-to-door. And he straight up told me that all I had to do is go deliver steaks. And I thought, oh, well, that's a good job. How much do you get paid? And he said $300 to $500 a day. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go check it out. So I rode out with the guy, and he's actually knocking on doors selling steaks, chicken, and seafood. And I thought, well, he sold 7 cases that day, made like $500. And I thought, well, if he can do this, I can do this. So the next day I rode out with him again, and he did it again. And I thought, well, crap, $500 in one day, I can do that. That was like 28 years ago. And so then I started to learn it. And I got to be honest with you, about even 6 months into it, I mean, I'm an introvert at heart. In high school, I didn't have very many friends. I didn't really go out of my way to talk to people, but I saw somebody make $500 in one day. And I thought, well, I'm going to make myself learn how to do this. And so I remember knocking on my first door, and it was an older gentleman, and I didn't even know how to sell. I went from like $200. Okay, I'll give it to you for $180. No, okay, I'll give it to you for $130. He ended up being nice and saying, I'll give you $100 for it, which then I found out was underneath my cost. It took, long story short, obviously it took me into the selling meat career. I did that for 16 years, ran a bunch of different offices. But it was funny because 6 months into it, I was telling myself, I'm definitely not going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I hated going door to door. I hated talking to people. And 16 years later, I was still selling meat door to door. Then I got in a bad car accident and got rear-ended. I hurt my neck real bad, ended up having to have surgery, and I couldn't get in and out of the vans anymore. And I thought to myself, I got to figure out something else I got to do. So I ended up going to Sears, selling windows, doors, siding, heating, and air conditioning. They set up my appointments for me. We did like a 2 to 3 hour long presentation, and ended up doing pretty well at that. Then I got into real estate. I always wanted to be in real estate, didn't have a clue on how I was going to get into it. Ended up getting a big settlement from my car wreck, And my wife and I prayed about it, and we thought, you know what, we were renting at the time. We could buy a house, we could buy a couple of new cars, but why don't we invest in something that's going to take us somewhere for the rest of our life and be a good career, right? And so I bought into a mentorship with Fortune Builders, and they taught me how to wholesale. They taught me how to flip houses. They taught me how to rent out houses. And, then I started getting into that. Then I opened up my own construction company because we had to flip houses. And I thought, well, if I'm going to pay somebody else to do it, why don't I be the owner of the company that's going to do it? That's pretty stupid to pay somebody else to do what I need to do anyway. So I partnered with a good friend of mine. He's been a general contractor for over 30 years. And he runs all of that side of things. I run the back office part of it. I run the marketing, that kind of thing. And then I saw this opportunity come up, and I thought, in my real estate career, I had to do all the marketing, and I had to generate the mail pieces that went out. I had to do the Facebook ads. I had to figure it all out. I mean, they had templates of what you could do, but I had to go and do it myself. And so when this opportunity came up, it was actually from Shawn Mike on a podcast with Brad Lee is what I heard. And I prayed about it. I thought about it, and I thought, well, if they already have leads, I don't have to do any marketing. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is call people that are already interested in buying life insurance or some type of life insurance. And I get to figure out a way to help them. And I thought that's a pretty noble business, right? And then I started to think about, okay, how much return on time would I get back if I were to do this? How many hours am I going to have to spend doing this? And at first I figured, okay, what if I just spend 6 hours a day? What would that get me? And so I did the math, and I figured out that, for the first 6 months, I'd probably be a little bit rough, learning the business, learning the policies, learning the ups and downs, learning the all the way arounds, right? And so then I talked to my wife about it. I prayed about it, and I thought, you know what? If I can spend 6 hours a day on this and spend the other 2 to 4 hours a day on my other businesses, I think I'd be all right. And then about a month into it, I started to help a lot more families. And I thought, well, crap, what if I just do this full time, put those on the back burner, and it all started to play out. I started to help more families, and I started to see that, look, by recruiting and getting people on your team, you can really be financially stable and literally retire early from a business like this. I talked to my buddies about this, right? When I remember a good business partner of mine that I own properties with, I told him what I was going to do about getting into the life insurance industry. And he said, you know what? He goes, I don't remember his name, but I had an old neighbor of mine that drove a Porsche. And I said, okay. And he said he was making about $40,000 a month. This other person was. This was about 30 years ago. And I said, really, what did he do? And he said he sold life insurance. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, cool. So obviously I jumped in wholeheartedly, and this is where I'm at today.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love to kind of break that down a little bit because there's so many different pieces of your background there. You mentioned this idea of, 16, 17 years, selling door to door. You talked about saving grace. You met your wife in this company. Love to hear you tell that story. And, also, if you're speaking to some guys in door to door, why life insurance over door to door?
Because I don't have to move. That's the short end of the stick, man. When I got into this business, I did a lot of in-home, right? Because that's what I was familiar with. When I was going door to door selling steaks, I was in their face. I was talking to them. When I was selling with Sears, they would set the appointments, and we would be in their face and just talking to them. But now I figured out, and just like many people have figured out, that everybody is comfortable doing everything over the phones, right? And so I I save a lot of money on gas, and I can help a lot more families by just doing it over the phones, right? And so you were asking about how I met my wife. I was selling steaks, chicken, and seafood door to door, and one of the owners of the company that I was managing an office for up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, put up a bonus. We had been doing 1,500 boxes a week at the time on average, and which is, if you were to equate that with FFL, maybe $20,000 a month in premium, and or families helped. And he said, you know what? He had a big meeting with us, and he said, if you guys do 3,000 boxes in a week, I'm going to take you guys to Cancun. And we were like, wait a minute, what? You're going to take the whole office to Cancun? Is it just us or our wives or our girlfriends at the time? Who are you taking? He goes, I'm going to take you guys and whoever, one person that you want to bring. So the very next week, we had hit 3,000 boxes by noon. And that night on a Friday, he had a limo rented. We went out there and partied it up that night. The very next month, we go to Cancun, and my group of friends hooked up with a group of girls, and that's how I met my wife. And I didn't speak any English, or I'm sorry, I didn't speak any Spanish. She didn't speak any English, but I had a friend of mine that spoke Spanish, and she had a friend of hers that spoke English. And so we translated through each other that way. And she ended up moving up here. I went down again about a month later, met her family. And then about 3 months later, she ended up moving up here, and she moved up to Minneapolis. So, yeah.
I love it. So other than the language barrier that you guys obviously, figured out, you had Spanglish for a while, like you were saying, but
Yeah.
For anybody out there who's married, what does that conversation with your wife look like as well when, you're not just multiple businesses, you've had decades of multiple businesses. And I tell people all the time, hey, you need to have a conversation with your spouse. And the thing that they hear, I'll have one conversation with my spouse and that'll be it. Man, I'm having a conversation with my spouse daily,
all the time,
always trying to recast the vision. So like, what's some hope that you can maybe offer to somebody out there who is trying to bring their spouse, not necessarily into work the business, but somebody just to make sure that they've got that same vision and dream and expectations? How do you balance that?
Totally. So we had that event that Grady put on in August, right? And I remember Andrew Taylor getting up there, and he says, I work on a 90-day plan. I bust it for 90 days. And then after that, I'm taking a 3 to 4 day weekend. And I thought, man, that's an awesome plan. If I bust it, and then I could take my family and we can do something really special for them, kind of sacrificing. And in our family, we're kind of unique anyways. My middle daughter, I have 3 kids. My oldest daughter, she's 27. She's married. She's moved out. I have a young son who's 11 years old. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter who was born with a condition called hydranencephaly. She was born without a brain. And so we have nurses coming in and out of the house all the time. So we can't go and just jump ship and go to another place on vacation whenever we want to. We have to plan it out, and sometimes months in advance, right? And when the nurses don't come, or the staffing place can't bring nurses, then my wife has to stay overnight with her and stay up with her all night because she needs 24/7 care. And like just this last weekend, she's been up for 5 nights. I have the best wife in the world. I mean, she sacrifices so much for our family. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. And after that event, I sat down with my wife and my son, who's 11 years old. And I said, look, this is the plan. I said, I really, really, really want to hit Hall of Fame. I mean, if I do that, there's, the money that's coming in is going to be exponential. But what's more important is I get to help a lot of families get protected. And I get to help a lot of agents that are going to join my team become successful in this business along the way. And I said, as long as you're on the same page as me, I'm going to be working a lot of hours, from 8 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock at night, maybe 11 o'clock at night. But there's going to be days where I'm going to have some free time to spend with you guys. But if we do this, I need you guys to be on board with me. I need the support from you guys. And after this 90 days, let's go someplace and take a 4-day, 5-day vacation, just a short little vacation. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. My wife, again, she's like the best wife in the world. She was like, I'm here to support you 100% along the way, every day. She goes, if that's your goal and you really want to do it and you really want to work hard and do it, I'm there with you. And so and we actually had planned it already. I already set it in stone to where, in 90 days from now, it didn't matter what happened. I knew what was going to happen. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't see, I saw the vision, but I didn't see the pathway there yet. Right. But I saw the vision of what's going to happen. And so the 90-day mark landed right on Thanksgiving, which is like the first week of December. And so I already had it planned out that on Thanksgiving Day, I'm a huge Vikings fan, and they were playing on Thanksgiving Day. And my side of the family, we had Thanksgiving the Saturday before, and then my sister does Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving with her side of the family. Well, my other side of the family is in Mexico, so we never do anything on Thanksgiving. So I thought, well, let's go to a Vikings game because they're playing right on Thanksgiving. And then the next day, my wife can have her cake and eat it too. And we'll go Christmas shopping at the Mall of America. And so we made it a whole weekend of it, and it was just a blast, right? But since I was working, I'm $70,000 behind in December. And I thought, I'm not selling any policies while I'm in Minneapolis, right? And so I'm like half a week behind already, starting off December. So
Yeah, I mean, you're spending some policies at the Mall of America.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's an incredible story, man. It's really cool to be able to hear, your motivation and your passion behind, why you work so hard. I mean, you had mentioned to me, obviously you want to, set your family up for, retirement. I'm assuming that means, making it so that, your wife doesn't have to have so many long nights, doing that. Obviously she would do that. She'd do that for the rest of her life. I mean, that's what, being a parent will do to you. But, for you, just kind of, paint that picture a little bit more about, why you're really doing this. And like, just, you talked about, having a passive income from building a team, being able to, earn this income from selling, but, just a little bit deeper in regards to, the vision that you've been casting for your family and why you guys are really doing this.
Well, I mean, it's just really simple. I mean, and it's what everybody wants, right? You want to be financially free. You don't want to work because you have to. You want to work because you want to, right? And for me, I always tell myself I'm setting everybody up or setting the family up for retirement. But when it's fun, it's not really work, right? I mean, I can consider myself retired right now, but I'm still working because it's fun, right? Obviously, I still have bills I need to pay, and I don't have everything all paid off. I have debt just like everybody else does, right? And so I want to be financially free, have all the debt paid off, not have to worry about anything, and want to be able to keep giving back to the community like I do, right? Back to the church, that kind of thing. But by the time I'm 60 years old, I want to be able to, if we can, at the drop of a dime, just go and visit Italy if I want to, or go to Cancun where my wife's family is and just chill out there for as long as we want to. Right. But on the flip side of it, though, too, I mean, I'm in the business to where I can do that right now because I can still work down there. Right. When you have families that are requesting your help, you can call them and help them over the phone from a million miles away. We're living in 2023 now. We're not living in 1993 anymore. Right. We can do that all over the world. So the life is what you make of it, right? And if you have some good active income coming in, take a little bit of that and make it passive, right? Hire, go buy a house or, invest, right? Keep investing. And before you know it, you have enough to where later on down the road, you can just do whatever you want, right? But what's more important to me is helping people, right? Because we help enough families get protected. But what's important is helping other agents as well change their lives, right? The best feeling in the world is not only and that's why I love this business. I call it one of the most noblest businesses in the world, because you're not only protecting families. That's a really good feeling. In fact, that's what really fired me up when I first started, was the fact that every time I helped a family get protected, I just got this awesome chill down my spine that now they're protected. If something happens to them, they don't have to go through a financial catastrophe, But the other side of things is, when you help an agent figure out this business, and then all of a sudden it clicks for them, and something just turns on, and they're gone, right? That's the way I was. And that's the way I want it to be for all the agents that we're able to help, right? And set themselves up for retirement. I mean, this is the easiest business in the world to start. Out of all the businesses I've ever done, this is the easiest one to start. You don't need much to invest, right? All you do is buy leads, you call leads. And the other thing is you just talk to people, right? I mean, there's no trying to figure things out, right? The only expenses you have is leads and licenses for the states. That's it. A couple of other tools, and that's about it to start off. So, did that answer your question?
More than answered it. Thank you so much, man.
Right.
So let's we a little bit. So obviously, we know your motivation behind why you're here with FFL. Now, again, Hall of Fame, I mentioned that was something I wanted to dig into, a little bit deeper, because being 70 families behind, guys. Okay, just to do some math here. So 400 families in a year is roughly 33 families a month for 12 months. Okay. Shawn did not have his first full-time month until March of 2022. So between March of 2022 and December of 2022, Shawn was able to help over 400 families. Now, Shawn had shared with me before the call that in the last 4 months of the year, he was able to help more families in the last 4 months of the year than he helped the whole rest of the year combined that he was here. So obviously, you had this, goal in your mind. Was Hall of Fame something that was on your mind, right when you first started? Was that something that, mid-year you were like, you know what, I got to make the decision to do it, and now I have to, turn it up a notch to get there? Like, what was your, thoughts when it came to, kind of deciding that was your goal, Shawn?
Well, it's kind of funny because you can also sabotage yourself. And so at the very beginning, when I got into this business, I saw the Hall of Fame marker, and I was like, well, I can do that. That's no problem, right? But in the back of my mind, all this time, I look back now, and I just realized this just the other day. In the back of my mind, I kept telling myself, I'm probably going to be one of those guys that just have to pull it out in the end. And that's what happened. And it was in the back of my mind the whole time. And that's the reason why it happened, right? Whereas if I were to just set it to where, in 3 months, I'm gonna hit Hall of Fame, or in 6 months, I'm gonna hit Hall of Fame, which is my goal this year, is to do it in 6 months rather than the whole year. But if I would have just done that right off the bat, I would have done things a little bit differently. I would have worked harder, but you look back and everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, I was still learning the business. I was learning, where to get leads, which ones work for me, which ones are better for me, right? But in the end, I made it happen. And that's really all that it boils down to. I have this thing, I live in a 2-story house, and right above my stairs going downstairs, there's a sign that I put on that wall right above the stairs. It's not a side wall. It's like right there as I'm going down the stairs. And it says, it's a big sign that says believe. That's all it says, is believe. And that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. But for this year, for work, for FFL, it meant hitting Hall of Fame, believe it. And come December, I still didn't know if I was going to do 70,000, but I believed it, right? I didn't have a conviction in my mind, but I believed that I could do it. Everybody around me was telling me that I could do it. And so I just kept going through the motions, right? What do? I wake up early, I go work out, I come home, I feed my kid, we read scriptures together, I send him off to school, and I get down to nuts and bolts, and I just start setting appointments and doing one-call closes and, going through the motions of helping people, right? And I look back and I'm like, man, I wrote $93,000 in business in December. And it just blew my mind, right? I mean, you just go through the motions and do it. And when you have a goal and you're committed to it and your conviction is there, God and the world just move into your favor, right? I mean, it just starts to build around you.
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, when you have, obviously, I don't think it works in a way that, we are rewarded based on our works, but at the end of the day, God does favor people who work. I will say that. So, in the life to come, it's not based on works, but in this life here, you work your butt off, it can be pretty great. And, for you, you've obviously proven that. So, 70 families behind. You talked about figuring out your lead flow. You talked about figuring out your schedule. I remember looking at the numbers and thinking to myself, like, I know like everything in me knows that Shawn has it in him to do this, but I also was looking at the numbers going, but how's he going to do it?
Yeah.
I know he can do it, but hey, how is Shawn going to do it? And it was just so cool to watch you do it. I mean, there was, even 2 weeks into December, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still 40 families behind. Oh my gosh, he's only got 2 weeks left. What's he going to do? And then you pulled it out. So I'm proud of you, man. So talk about like now, so you've obviously done that. And it's like, there's kind of two far ends of the spectrum. You've got, Hall of Fame, which for some people, it's like, that's just too far for them to possibly see themselves there. But now you've got like, I'm just getting started and I'm trying to help my first family. I'm just getting started. I just got my butt kicked and I set 20 appointments and 15 of them no-showed me. I sat on 5, I sold 2, one of them charged back. You're going through these things. So like, what encouragement can you give to somebody to like get into their flow to like, I always tell people like most people quit before they even find out how good they can get at this. So like for someone who's in that grind, in that battle right now of like, I'm still trying to figure out how good I can get at this, like what encouragement can you maybe provide for them or any advice on how they can stick it out and, even just get to that as far as they can see. Maybe they can't see as far as Hall of Fame, but they can see, I could help 100 families, 150 families. I could have my first 10 family week. Like, what is your encouragement for them?
Yeah. So set a big goal and chunk it down. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing you have to do is chunk it down. And when you get off on your goal, that's okay. Just keep going. Don't get emotional about it, right? Because if you get emotional about it, that could send you down a spiral in itself. I know in December, most people, like you were saying, Jamie, I mean, most people do quit or give up right before that moment is that they're going to get it. They just can't push through. And I'm telling you, I was literally so close, and it was like everything was coming at me, denying me from getting there. I mean, I would have policies. I had one guy that I would have helped one person. I would have helped 6 families right there in that one city. And then all of a sudden he got denied right at the end. And then I wrote another policy with him. And then one of our carriers could not get a hold of him to do the callback, right? I mean, all these things were just adding up and adding up and adding up. But I told myself, don't give up. I mean, you're so close. There's no reason to give up. Don't get emotional about it. It's just the way things are. I mean, you have to like grind it out. I mean, the hardest part of climbing the mountain is right before you get to the top, right? That's the hardest part. And if you can get to the top of that mountain, the next time you climb the mountain, it's going to be a little bit easier every single time, right? And it's going to get a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier every time. And if you take 400 families and chunk it down, we're talking 34 families a month. And then you chunk that down, that's 8.5 families a week, right? So 10 families a week. And I mean, you're definitely made it. That's 520 in a year. So, I mean, if you chunk it down, set small goals. And if you miss one goal, so what? Don't give up. Just keep going, right? Just keep going. And the funny part about it is just like push-ups. You do 10 push-ups and that's all you can do. You do push-ups, 10 push-ups again, but guess what? Now you can do 12. And then the next time you wait 30 seconds and now you can do 14 push-ups. right? It's the same thing. Whereas you say the thing that you say when you're talking to the families, and you may not have helped that family that one time, but the next time you talk to another family, you learn something from that previous person. But here's the other thing. We're in a community of people that just want to help us, right? Everywhere we go, people want to help us. I can pick up the phone and call you. I can call Mike. I can call Brody. I can call Joe. I can call anybody, and they'll help me out, right? And the best part about this is when we're helping families, even online or on Zoom, the best thing we can do is unmute, because if we don't, all we have is our knowledge in our brain. After that, all we can do is analyze what we said ourselves, but it may have come out a little bit different to you. But if you unmute, let other people hear you, if there's 10 people on the call, now you have yourself and 10 other people to help you and guide you on what you could have said, what you should have said, and what may help you better next time. And then also it is one little nugget that you pick up, right? And when you pick up one nugget, the next time you go out there and help another family, you're going to pick up another nugget, and then you're going to pick up another nugget. And then by the end of the year, you have 365 nuggets, right? If we get 1% better every day, that's 365% better that we got by the end of the year, right? And so the moral of the story is, don't give up, don't get emotional, and just grind.
I love it, man. That's incredible. I mean, I always like to say the mind once expanded can't go back. So it's like and I guess I don't say that. That's a quote I stole from somewhere, but it's a quote that I like. The mind once expanded can't go back. And at the end of the day, when you help your, first 2 families in a day, now it's not impossible for you to help 2 families in a day. When you help your first 10 families in a week, then your first 10 families in a day, whatever that number is for you, you get stronger, like you talked about. And you mentioned, picking up, the gold nuggets. I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll try to bring it back to Hall of Fame here. So hopefully I don't butcher this, but what's an ounce of gold is worth about $1,000. So 365 nuggets in a year, it's about Hall of Fame. So you get one nugget a day, one family a day. So that's good. And that takes you on your way to Hall of Fame. You learn every single day. And you apply, and that knowledge, it compounds. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned my first year is I decided to be a student of the game, and every appointment I took that knowledge and I applied it to the next appointment, the next appointment, the next appointment. And it's like a year later, the things that you struggled with when you first got started, it's like, Shawn, when was the last time that you had, somebody, tell you they didn't want to, give you their social security number? It probably hasn't happened in a long time. Obviously it happens to all of us, but it happened a lot when you first got started because of that, the confidence in the beginning. So, I guess, what else would you say, has been a key for you in regards to like producing at such a high level?
Just buying leads and grinding. I mean, just go through it. I mean, here, the biggest thing that people can do, I always tell people when they join this business that this is the easiest business to do, but what's easy to do is also easy not to do, right? Most people come from like a day-to-day job, work 9 to 5, right? Well, you have a boss. Well, now when you have your own business, you have to be that boss that was telling you what to do, what time to be there, what time you can take a lunch, what time you can go home. You have to be that boss, right? So you have to set your own schedule. And if you decide that, okay, over the next week, I'm going to work from 8 in the morning till noon, I'm going to take off 2 hours for a break. I'm going to go play with my kid. I'm going to jump back on at 2 o'clock and then work until 6 o'clock, take another hour, 7 to 10. And if that's your schedule, you know what? Do it. Commit to it, right? You designed that life. You designed that to happen. You got to do it, right? And if you don't do it, you're only letting yourself down and your family, because they're the ones counting on you they're the ones counting on you to help them, succeed as well, right? You're the one helping take care of the family, right? So, but at the beginning though, when you first start, you got to be persistent. even if you don't know what's going on yet, you got to be persistent. I always tell people, persistency will get you there. Consistency will keep you there the whole time. Once you are persistent and you can get there, now just stay consistent. Because if you stay consistent, set your own schedule every single week and just do the schedule, do what you say you're going to do, commit to yourself. It's like being married. You just do what you say you're going to do and everything is all good, right? For the most part anyways. But yeah, I mean, just those couple of things. I mean, if we can live by those rules alone, then things will be a lot easier.
Love it, man. So, but just kind of end this, just talking more about the opportunity as a whole, like people who have your background, similar backgrounds, whether it have been in, construction, flipping, houses, selling, roofs and windows and all these things, or selling meat, real estate, et cetera, people who've heavily invested into courses, like, why should those people look here? And and honestly, this is going to go out on YouTube. So someone who's watching this, like, Shawn, right now, sell us. Why should someone want to work with you? And, what are your goals? Where are you going? And where do you want to take people?
Well, for me, this is the most lucrative business out there. I mean, that's kind of why why I didn't really jump ship. I just kind of added onto my bucket already. So I'm still doing the other things, but I added this onto my bucket as well because it's the most lucrative business out there. It's the easiest business in the world to start. You don't need much money. Then after that, it's just house money you're playing with. It's the easiest business to learn. We're dealing with insurance. Not only that, we have an awesome support network here to help us out, right? And it can set you up for passive income for retirement, right? That's the biggest three things that you can get out of any business. If every business had that, you can't go to Walmart and get that. You can't go work for a construction company and get that. You can't be a real estate agent and get that. I mean, you can do other things like that and get that. But with this type of a business, especially the way that FFL has it set up, it's really, you can get there the fastest with this type of a business. And so for me, anybody that wants to jump on board and they want to work hard and they don't want to dilly-dally around, they want to set their own schedule, commit to themselves and commit to their family and turn their life around and, help a lot of families and make a lot of money doing the same thing, jump on board. Let's go to the top, right? This is Mount Everest. Let's do it.
Let's go, man. Awesome. So convention's coming up. Why should somebody attend the Family First Life convention?
Because it's free and there's tons of knowledge and nuggets coming your way. I used to go to a lot of conventions with real estate and every single one of them I had to pay for. Minimum, they were, you can go to them. Some of them were $100. Obviously you get what you pay for, right? And some of them were $2,500. But with FFL, everything is free and there's some top producers there that you're going to learn nuggets from. Obviously, I'm still learning from this business. And so I want to go there and learn, right? If we're not learning, if we're not growing, we're dead. And so
let me ask you this, Shawn, ballpark, how much do you think that you've invested into real estate courses in your career or paying mentors?
About 150,000.
Okay. Yeah. So 150,000 invested into paying mentors and real estate courses. Knowing what you know now and knowing that you got all this knowledge for free with Family First Life, I'd be willing to wager that you would reinvest all that money to learn this information if you had to, knowing what you know now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. And FFL, the convention, I mean, it's like a crash course with everything there. This is going to be my first one, but if it's anything like the ones that I've been into in real estate, which I think it's going to be, I mean, we got some big name people coming, some people that are very successful in other endeavors and very successful in this endeavor as well. That if it's going to be anything like that, I mean, you're going to come back with a wealth of knowledge and be able to skyrocket your business within a matter of, weeks, not months.
Yes. If you're trying to build a team here, guys, bringing people with you to convention is the cheat code. if you're trying to build this business with your spouse, bringing your spouse to convention is the cheat code to, you know, her seeing the picture or him seeing the picture of what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, why it's such a big deal. So convention's going to be incredible, amazing speaker. Shawn's going to get an opportunity to get paraded across stage with about 100 new inductees to the Hall of Fame. He's going to get his custom fitted red jacket. If you're new to FFL, whatever you do, don't wear a red jacket to convention, unless you're Hall of Fame, you know, unless you want to get made fun of. But Shawn's gonna get his red suit jacket at convention, and we're super proud of him. So thank you so much, Shawn, for jumping on the call. You know, if you're watching this for the first time and you want to work with Shawn, obviously reach out to him, Facebook, Instagram. Great producer. He's going to go out and hit Hall of Fame again this next year. I'll race you, man. I'm going for it one more time as well.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So guys, appreciate you all. Everybody have an amazing night. If you need anything, please go ahead and reach out, and we will talk to you all soon. See you next time. Bye, guys.